Powerful question, and if your listeners hear nothing else, just journal on this and bingo, drop the mic, you're done. Which is, if you're in a toxic relationship and you're ready to leave, this is an absolute must watch. This is also a really special episode of LoveBites because the following clip is actually a snippet from my conversation with Ashley Hann on her podcast, The Ashley Hann Show, where we go into not only our personal experience of toxic relationships and overcoming that and leaving that, but also how you can do the same and why it is that toxic relationships can feel so difficult to leave. So if you or a friend are in a toxic relationship, I really recommend watching this. Share it with your friend, tag them below the video, send the link to them. This is a really, really important message. We have to get this to as many people as possible. So without further ado, watch the clip and I really hope you take a lot from this. So it's not about bypassing and going straight to let's go to love and light and forgiveness.
There's a lot of people try to do that.
Too soon.
Like paint over their pain.
Yeah. Like if you're mad, okay, you're mad. Let's work through that.
Let it out.
Really, let it rip.
Right? Yeah, let it rip. I just told one of my clients, I'm like, will you scream in a pillow after you get off this call? Like just scream in a pillow, just let it out.
Yeah, get it out of your body.
Yeah.
And physical movement's great for that too. I was at the gym the other day and I did a boxing circuit and they have a boxing punching bag at the gym and gloves, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing in here, a little bit of stress release. And it's good just to, it's a little bit like taking the cap off a fizzy drink, and it kind of the air comes out, the gas comes out, just letting that out gently and not letting it build up so it explodes. So
I like that analogy. I'm all about analogies.
Yeah, I love a metaphor. I love a metaphor, me.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've kind of identified some of the patterns and where they come from, then what do we do once we've identified, okay, I love that you said, I'm the common denominator. Yeah. And that's a hard thing sometimes for us to accept. I remember for me, for example, that was really hard for me to look at and be like, because we want to, especially in relationships, they're so intimate and so intense, and you want to just be like, it's their fault.
Why are you an asshole?
Yeah, I'm blaming you. If it wasn't for him doing XYZ, and if it wasn't, and we don't want to look at, okay, well, how come in my last relationship, I was attracting something very similar in every relationship, showed up different ways, but it's hard to look at it and be like, okay, I'm in ownership, and I'm in responsibility, right? And that's responsibility is just ability to respond. So how do I respond to this so that moving forward, I'm not in these relationships? Because at the end of the day, everything that shows up in our lives is because of our choices, what we're attracted to, who we're attracting. Yeah. Okay, so what do we do now that we've accepted, okay, I have a pattern and this is what I believe it is. What are the next steps?
I love that you said it's really important to take ownership of that and not do the blaming, like he did this and he did that. When we do the blaming, we're actually stepping into a modality, an archetype, if you like, called critical parent. And that's a model from counselling. There's critical parent and there's adaptive child. I don't think it's important to go into exactly what that is, but the key point here is that we need to be in the adult archetype, which is, okay, let's have a look at this. What can I do about this? Right? It's very problem-solving centric. So let's find a solution. It's solution-centric.
It's looking at it from a neutral perspective. Like everything is neutral, and then what am I going to create from this? What is the meaning I'm going to attach to it? Interpretation.
Right, and not feeling powerless like the child and not blaming like the critical parent. It's somewhere in the middle, like you said, it's neutral. And we look at this and go, okay, so I've recognized that this is the pattern and I'm the common denominator. And it's really starting to ask yourself questions like, where does this pattern come from? Where did I see this? A really powerful question. And if your listeners hear nothing else, just journal on this and bingo, drop the mic, you're done. Which is, who does this person remind me of?
Okay, the current relationship you're in.
The current relationship, the quote-unquote toxic man, right, toxic partner, whomever. Who does this person remind me of? It may be a mother, it may be a father, it could be an auntie or an uncle or a grandparent, depending on your family dynamics, who raised you, how close you were to your extended family. Who does this person remind me of? And the penny drops, and you go, oh, that's where it comes from. And from that place of awareness, then you can change your behavior because you have power over it now. You go, oh, this isn't my stuff. That happened when I was a kid and I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know that doesn't have to be the case anymore. I can make a different choice.
You're taking your power back in that moment.
100%.
And same when you're taking ownership. It's when you're in ownership, you're saying, I'm responsible for it all.
Yeah.
And you're getting your power back, because otherwise you're a victim. And you're not that means that life's just happening to you.
Why is this happening to me?
Yeah. Why me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you said that. That's, I think, so important. And yeah, I mean, I was just thinking in my past as you were saying that, I'm like, who do they remind me of? I love that because that's a really powerful connection to draw.
It is, and this we'll stay on relationships obviously, but this also applies to friends, co-workers, clients, prospective clients, audience
all
members,
relationships, everyone.
You go, oh, that reminds me of my auntie who's, you know, not very emotionally healthy, and I always held space for her, and she was kind of judgy and blamey, and oh look, this client's exactly the same. Right?
Yeah. So
you know,
because it's like
draw the lines.
It's kind of like we're manifesting our comfort zones.
Yeah,
because we grew up with that, so it's like, oh, this is what I know, this is what I'm comfortable with, so I'm gonna keep going there. Right. And then the powerful part for those of you listening is realizing, okay, this is not, if it isn't, this is not serving me.
Yeah.
This is not serving me. It may feel comfortable, and that's maybe why I keep going back to it. It's not serving me, because at the end of the day, am I getting what I want?
Yeah.
Am I in a healthy relationship?
My needs not getting met.
Yeah.
It starts with that. That's the pain point. My needs are not getting met. And this is causing me such extreme pain that I'm just not prepared to go through this anymore. And the pain of going through whatever the cause is going to be less than this pain I'm enduring in this toxic relationship or this repeating reality in dating. So there's that tipping point. I don't want to call it a rock bottom, because I don't think it's even that. It's just this pain point. You reach a threshold, a pain threshold, and you say, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
that
done.
is really what happens. Okay, so and usually that pain point, I mean, it's freaking painful. I mean, you could be like, I mean, I've gotten to the point, this was like, what was this, like, I want to say 7 years ago, and I got to the point where it was so painful I was actually vomiting, and I wasn't sick, I was totally fine, and then I was in so much excruciating pain. I was laying in a dark room, I was so upset, and I was literally just vomiting, and I wasn't eating because I couldn't eat,
right?
And it literally, like, that feeling in your tummy where you're literally getting sick. And it's crazy, because that's how that just goes to show you, for those of you listening, if you've ever experienced physical pain from an emotional thing like a breakup or a relationship, that goes to show you how powerful you are, how powerful your mind is, that you're creating this visceral reaction in your body just because of what's going on up here. Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning too, there could be a trauma response at play, and I don't want to gloss over that. I'm not a counsellor, so if someone says actually there is unresolved trauma, absolutely go take care of that. Because when we start to get into things like complex PTSD, and maybe you were neglected, if there's things that are really heavy like that, definitely get that sorted out in therapy or counselling or whatever modality appeals to you. So I just want to say that too, because when the response is, when we have a really extreme response, it can be, not always, but it can be linked to a trauma, and it's worth looking at that as well. So I just wanted to say that for anyone listening, in case they think it's just as simple as shifting, it can be complex, and it depends where we're at on our journey. For me, when I figured out the relationship stuff, I'd already been through counselling. I'd already been through a lot of coaching, and it was kind of the final frontier to me. So I just want to say that as a slight caveat.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very pro therapy, so I encourage everyone to go into that if that really calls them.
So, okay, we have women that are listening to this that are like, okay, I've been in this relationship. I want to leave. Like, I know I should leave. I know my heart's telling me to leave. I keep coming back to him. I keep going back to him. What is the next step after? Like, how do they break that cycle of continuing to stay when they know in their heart that they need to go?
I actually have a course called Break the Cycle, and it's about this very, very thing.
Really?
Yeah. It was a complete download, Break the Cycle. Yeah, it is all about this. It's what is going on here? Why can I not get out of this? Why can I not break this cycle?
Yeah.
So what's going on specifically with those women? And I'm going to speak really to those who are in the relationship. There's also a pattern whereby you feel like you're in the toxic relationship, but you're not actually dating. And that is psychologically very complex. You're very attached to the man. You're mentally dating him. You think you're something, but you're not exclusive. That's a different pattern. But what I'm going to speak to is the women that you referred to. It's a toxic relationship. They can't leave. They keep leaving, going back, leaving, going back. So there's a couple of things going on there. I want to address the first thing, which is a little more surface level, but worth knowing, is that it satisfies a need in some way. And that might sound really odd. especially when it's so painful for us. But what it's doing is it's giving us this spike in emotions, right? And we can be up and we can be down, and when we're down it feels horrible, but when we're up it feels really, really good, right?
Yes.
And there's this spike of adrenaline and noradrenaline, and all the, we go up and down, and you know, all the different hormones flood our system. And I don't say this to put it on anyone or to blame anyone at all, because I've been in these situations, and this is what I found for myself. Having that spike in emotions and chemicals and hormones in my system was actually less painful than me sitting in my apartment and thinking, I'm on my own. And it feels at first very empty, extremely painful, and the up and down spike in emotions of the toxic relationship actually was like a band-aid.
Yep.
It's like when you've had a bad day and you drink, right? I'm sober now, so I can speak to that too. You know, it's numbing. It's effectively what it is. You're avoiding it because it's less painful than sitting on your own and really sitting with your pain and saying, I'm actually really afraid to be alone, or I'm afraid I'm going to be alone, I'm afraid that I'm not safe.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is actually work by Robert Holden, who's a British teacher, and I really want to give him credit for his beautiful work. And what he says is, when you make someone into a source of your love, you also make them into a source of pain. So if you've made this man or woman into your source of love, they're the person that makes you feel loved, you know? Like in England, we used to have this phrase called, does my bum look big in this? And it's this phrase that a lot of women used to say. It just became this catchphrase of asking for validation from your man. Right? Do I look?
Well, we see that in America too. Does my butt look big? Yeah.
Yeah, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Big in this?
Butt bum, same thing.
Same thing. And that's a really minor example, but it's when you're seeking validation from him, and without him you don't feel loved. He makes you feel loved. Quote, makes you feel loved. And so if you take him away, the source of your love's gone.
Yep.
Now, of course, that's not true. The love is within us. But if you have that pattern, which many people do, even conscious people, even those that are doing the work, that man or woman has become the source of your love, and now they've gone. What does that leave you with? And so you tether yourself to them.
Because you're relying on them. You're relying on them.
You're dependent on them.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And then the question, of course, is, where did that come from? Yeah. It's probably again linked to childhood, right? Yeah. That's why a lot of people don't leave.
So then right there, so when we identify that, because I feel, I mean, I relate to that. That's where I was. I was in that, I was in that relationship of up and down and up and down. And obviously, and I have friends who are in similar relationships actually. So, I mean, so we look back and we see, okay, where is this pattern coming from? We look back in our childhood, meditating on it, journaling about it, doing that work. And then what do we do after that? Like, what's something that we can practice to...
It's so difficult because it's different for everyone.
That's true. Because it could be a self-worth, like I'm not accepting of myself, so I'm...
It's really figuring out what...
I really hope that helped you. If you want to go ahead and watch the full clip, you can actually download the podcast episode. If you just go to your podcast app and type in the Ashley Hann Show and look for the episode with myself and download the full episode, then you can listen to that conversation in its entirety. There's a lot of advice there, wisdom, practical tips. I really recommend you go ahead and do that. And when you do, send me a DM on social. I'm at Cheryl J. Muir on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Let me know what you took away from it. I love hearing all of your comments. It really helps me and encourages me to keep doing this work. And it also really informs me of what it was that was helpful and what you took away from it. So please do let me know. And definitely listen to that episode in full. There's a lot there. And know that, this is a bit of a spoiler because I say this at the end of the episode. I want you to know that you're going to be okay. Right? You're going to be okay. I know it feels like completely overwhelming and you're not going to be okay without this person, but that's exactly why you need to walk away, because that kind of tethering, that emotional tethering to someone else and feeling like you can't survive without them, it's not healthy. Sometimes in love, and particularly in like movies and songs, we hear things about like not being able to live without the other person and I couldn't live without you. That's not romance. That's bullshit. That's dysfunction. It's not healthy. Of course, you know, when a relationship ends, we go through a natural period of grieving, and it is a little bit like a death because that person doesn't exist in your life in the same form that they used to. But that doesn't mean that ending a relationship that's unhealthy should feel like I can't do this, I can't go through it. If you know that this relationship is bad for you and it's toxic for you, which incidentally, it doesn't necessarily mean they're a toxic person, but it means the combination of you two together is just not good for you and or possibly for the other person too. You know you need to get out. And there's really no simple way to say it other than to really reassure you that you're going to be okay on the other side of it. Been through it myself. I promise you're going to be all right. So go ahead and listen to that episode. It's the Ashley Hann Show. Download it, listen to it, and let me know what you took away from it. And remember, you're going to be okay.